That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Alright guys, this video is going to be a little bit different. This one is not going to be me going through and talking about very specific rookie evaluations. Here it's going to be more general strategy on how we are going to approach the 2021 rookie drafts, because this is going to be the weirdest year of prospect evaluation that we have ever had. I mean, there are so many variables that we need to be looking at that we are just not going to have at our disposal. I mean, a lot of these players opted out. A lot of these players had shortened seasons. We're going to dive into all of that into the video. But before we get into it, guys, please, if you have not already, go down there, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. But more importantly, I'm going to have a massive announcement to make either tomorrow or the next day, very soon, where we are going to be live streaming. I don't want to say every single day, but close to it. And if you want to come out during the live stream, if you want to join a draft, if you want to join just really anything that we are doing, what I recommend doing is hitting that notification bell next to the subscribe button. That way, if you are available, you can come in and you can hop in some real live drafts with us and ask me all your questions. But anyway, that's it. Let's get into this video. Let's talk about these 2021 rookies and what happened in the 2020 college season. And the first topic that we have to talk about is we have to talk about top prospects completely opting out. I mean, top prospects deciding not to play their junior years, not to play their senior seasons, and instead just preparing for the NFL draft. Because I want to remind everyone, while I understand that we did have a college season that went to completion, if you kind of took the temperature and you just kind of read the room of what everybody was thinking at the time that we were gearing up for the college football season, a lot of people did not think it was going to happen. I mean, at that point, COVID was still something where we didn't really understand what it truly was and what the impact of it was going to be. And if we were going to have any sport outside of the NBA and their bubble, allowing players to even get into action and seeing what we are going to have actually on the field. So you can't really hold it against any of these players that decided to opt out, because if you would have asked myself about 3 weeks before the college football season kicked off if we were actually going to even have college football, I would have told you, no, I just need to have the NFL. If we have the NFL, I'll be happy. I don't even expect us to have college. That was the temperature of the room. I mean, that is what people were thinking at the time. So if you're looking at a Jamar Chase, you can't really blame him for opting out when he goes, you know what? I'm going to be a top 10 draft pick regardless, based on what I was able to do at 19 years old in 2019. So what is the incentive for me to go into a season that I have no idea what's going to be there for me? I have no idea if I am going to get COVID myself, and if it will have long-term implications or not. I just don't know. I don't think really anybody knew during that time. So if you're looking at those players, you cannot really be questioning their character, saying they don't want to play football, because I've heard that complaint actually before, and I think that is ludicrous. Guys, please give them a free pass. But what I will say is we can't just be pretending that they would have been able to go out there and in their junior season completely build on what they did on their sophomore year. We can't be pretending that they took this massive jump because they did not have the opportunity to. We have to look at it and we have to go, you know what? We can say that they most likely were going to do it, but it was not a certainty. So while we can say, you know what, if Jamar Chase played the 2020 college football season, he most likely would have been dominant. He most likely would have been right there with a Devontae Smith in the production that he had on the field. But because it didn't happen, we can't say that it did. We can't act like it did. So while I don't want us to be holding it against him, we can't be counting for stats that did not actually take place on the football field. And that's how I think we have to go about these players that decided to opt out entirely in the 2020 season. This is why I am willing to go out on a limb and say, you know what? Looking at Devontae Smith, looking at him being able to outproduce Jerry Jeudy, outproduce Henry Ruggs, Jalen Waddle, all of those first round drafted NFL wide receivers in 2019 when they were all the same age. And then Devontae Smith actually coming out in 2020 and then having a Heisman winning season where he was just a dominant wide receiver in college football. That's something that counts. That's something that we can look at and go, it happened. let's make sure that we boost that on Devontae Smith's profile. Whereas these other players like a Kenny Gainwell, you can't look at them and go, you know what, if they would have played, they would have balled. So let's act like they did. No, we can say that it most likely would have happened, but we can't act like it did. And now another thing that we have to look at the same time is we have to look at some of these players that had their seasons shortened, whether or not that was due to the fact that their conference started a long time after the Big 12, the SEC, and all the major ones, or whether or not that's just due to them going, you know what, we're halfway through the year, this is a mess. Let me just declare for the NFL draft. Let's get myself out of here because we are going to be drafted in the top 90 picks regardless. Players that we're looking at like this are guys that actually are big names. I mean, guys that had their seasons cut short due to the weird year. I mean, we're looking at a Rashad Bateman. We're looking at a Terrace Marshall. We're looking at a Rondale Moore and Amon St. Brown. I mean, there are a lot of wide receivers that we're looking at with those shortened seasons and going, you know what, how are we evaluating this player? I mean, are we going to be looking at their junior year and their market share numbers with the same weight through 4 games that it would have been through 10 games? And I know maybe that sounded like gibberish to some of y'all, but are we going to be looking at just say a 28% team target share for player X through 6 games and make it where it's as valuable in our projections as a player that played 10 games with that same target share in a previous season? Now, this is something that I don't have the answer to. I mean, I think it just puts a cloud of uncertainty over a few of these prospects. And while it's not something that we need to be drastically lowering them down our rookie rankings because of, it's something that we need to keep in the back of our mind. We have to understand that, you know what? Yeah, this player had a 30% team target share. This player had a 35% dominator rating, but he only did it through 6 games. What would that look like if he actually played a 10, an 11 game schedule? That's something that we don't have the answer to. I would love to know your opinion down in the comment section below. And another thing that we have to kind of look at with some of these stats is we have to look at the fact that a lot of these games were just so weird that it's hard to take a lot from them. I mean, if you're looking at a wide receiver that put up a 200-yard game against a team that had multiple defensive backs missing due to COVID, do we need to really be hyper-focusing in on that? Do we need to be discounting that type of production? Whereas on the other end, if we have a wide receiver where his quarterback missed a stretch due to COVID, do we need to be giving him just a free ride because of that? And this is why, guys, I think that this year, more than any, it's going to be so important to, instead of just looking at systems that we would have in the past with people going out and just giving out these prospect ratings based on their breakout age, their dominator rating, and everything in between, I think we need to be going case by case. We need to be putting some context behind the production. We need to be looking at a player and hyper-focusing in on exactly what their 2020 season was like, where their production came from. Was it all in a few games? Was there a stretch where he maybe did not produce like you would expect? And was there a reason behind that? And I'll also say, guys, lastly, another thing that we have to be on the lookout for is how is this going to affect the future prospects that we need to evaluate in 2022 and 2023 when it comes to their breakout age? I mean, can we really hold a true freshman player that came into his college system and really had no preparation for the season in the slightest? I mean, really, the spring ball was limited, if at all, for any of these freshmen. So how are you going to evaluate a true freshman breakout compared to a freshman breakout a few seasons ago? This is another thing that is left unanswered. This is another thing that I need your opinion. I need you to go down to the comment section and let me know what you think of. And next, we need to discuss the fact that there is no NFL Combine. I mean, this is going to be massive. I mean, the videos I was making earlier on this offseason where I was going, I hope we have a Combine because we need to be seeing what Najee Harris's official 40 time is. We need to be seeing how much Travis Etienne officially weighs. I mean, there are so many valuable points that we are looking at from the NFL Combine that we are just not going to be getting. And I know a lot of people want to go, we're going to be fine, we have pro days, blah, blah, blah. No, guys, a lot of these players say if you are Travis Etienne and you are afraid, you go, you know what? I am not going to weigh enough. If you're Devontae Smith and you're weighing in at 172 pounds soaking wet, there's no reason for you to weigh in on your pro day. You are not going to be doing so. So there are going to be a lot of data points that we just don't have to go off of. And this is why I think we need to be looking at prospects where we really don't have a question regarding their size, regarding their athleticism. We know, hey, you know what, this guy right here, we know that Jamar Chase is an elite level athlete. We know that he is a massive human being. So he is going to get a full ride where he does not have to go to the NFL Combine. That's not a worry at all. But lastly, guys, I want to recap this video in saying, generally, I am someone that looks at breakout age. I am someone that wants to look at dominator rating and how much they produced in their college career and try to evaluate these prospects coming into the NFL based on that. But I honestly think something that's going to be way more valuable this season, more than ever, is actually some film evaluations. I've made fun of a lot of people before that are just accountants, and then on the side, they watch a little bit of film and then think they know more than an NFL scout. But now, I think at this point, we have to look at film and we have to go, you know what? I mean, we are going to be missing so many data points, and a lot of these data points are going to be skewed in a way where we don't even know if they're going to be predictive for evaluating these prospects this season. Are we going to have to go player by player? Are we going to have to dive in to the context of their production, as well as how they look on the football field, their NFL draft capital, and everything in between, and try to come away with a picture of a player that way rather than just looking at the numbers, because a lot of those numbers aren't going to be nearly as valuable this season as they have been in years prior. And also a lot of people that have came through and they built algorithms to grade these players based on the numbers. They've done it with a completely different context behind it. They've done it in a regular season where there are not all these moving variables. So a lot of those just systems and a lot of those algorithms that grade players aren't going to be accurate. They are not going to know how to take into account all of this. So I think, if anything, what we need to be doing is we need to be loading up on late first round picks, early second round picks, late second round picks, picks in that range where we go, you know what? It's going to be hard to evaluate these players this year. There are going to be some busts at the top. I'm not going to come in and I'm not going to assume that any player is 100% bust proof, because they are all going to have some question marks surrounding their profiles. So instead, if I can just load up on more picks, instead of having the 102, if I can have the 108, the 109, and the 209, maybe you want the package of picks this year instead, and you go, I'm just going to be taking more shots. I'm going to be taking more shots. We know that the hit rate should be lower. There should be a little bit more volatility in what to expect this season. So maybe we can get an edge that way. But thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. As always, if y'all did, go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and I hope I'll be seeing you in some of those live streams